How long does concussion last? Like, how long can you expect to recover? Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Heisig. I'm a naturopathic physician and a concussion specialist. This is a question that a ton of people ask me, like, how long will I be dealing with this? And while I especially cannot tell you, the viewer, how long you're going to be dealing with concussion, I can't even tell my patients that. The best I can give you guys is averages. And so here was a 2020 study, and the headline was really grabby, and we're going to talk about it. The headline was, less than half of patients recover within 2 weeks of injury after a sports-related mild traumatic brain injury, a 2-year prospective study. Less than half of patients recover within 2 weeks of injury. We're going to kind of pick that apart because, of course. So what did they find? So I'm going to share this little graph up on the screen, but across all ages, 45% of people recovered within less than 2 weeks. And again, we're going to come back to that because that's highly questionable. 32% of people recovered within 2 to 4 weeks, and that's much more realistic. 17% of people recovered within 4 to 8 weeks, again, very realistic. And then around 6% of people recovered in over 8 weeks. So the key takeaway there is 77% of people recovered within 4 weeks, and 94% of people recovered within 8 weeks. So 3 out of 4 people to 4 out of 4 people are going to recover within 4 to 8 weeks. Recovery in 2 weeks is really questionable. Why is it questionable? Partly, mainly because brain metabolism and then other performance parameters that we'll talk about in a second, but your brain metabolism, so your brain energy levels, after a concussion, they dip by about 20%. So they reach peak dippage, peak kind of energy loss about 3 to 5 days after concussion. You'll lose about 20% of your brain energy levels. Well, it takes about 22 to 45 days to get those energy levels back up to baseline. The tricky part is that your symptoms will resolve within 5 to 10 days. So saying you recovered based off symptom resolution is actually not okay, because symptoms resolve in 5 to 10 days, but energy metabolism doesn't resolve for 3 to 6 weeks. So this is why when we say, or when we see 77 to 94% of people recovering in 4 to 8 weeks, that's a much more realistic and generalizable and safe recovery projection. So I want to talk more about the symptom resolution, because if you're an athlete, you're a parent, you're a coach listening to this, athletes should never, not ever, ever return to sport based on symptoms. There's a bunch of reasons why, but one of the big things we want to make sure of is that we're not sending an athlete back before they're actually ready, before they're properly recovered. So we need to test exercise tolerance. We need to be able to track reaction time, because that's a big deal. We know that reaction time can be impaired for 21 to 59 days after injury. That's much longer than 2 weeks. We also know that neurocognitive, visual, vestibular, and balance impairments can be detected for up to 30 days or impaired for up to 30 days after concussion. So really, when we're doing baseline testing at rest for return to play decisions, it doesn't cut it. When someone's sitting right here at rest and we do a SCAT5 or an impact on the computer, it doesn't cut it. We need to actually do some exertion testing, test their exercise tolerance, test kind of game time parameters. And when we do those exertion testing, we'll catch about 1 in 3 people that were cleared based on resting testing. So if you got lost in the mix there, we need to assess symptoms. We need to assess physical and neurocognitive performance after a concussion, especially testing those after an exertion protocol for return to play for hockey players, football players, lacrosse players, rugby players, soccer players, people who are going to be physically exhausted and exerted in game time performance. We need to make sure that they're actually performing brain-wise up to par, up to baseline before we send them back. So never return someone back based on symptoms. But the big summary is, how long will your concussion last? I cannot say for sure, but we know that 77 to 94% of people are going to recover within 4 to 8 weeks. And for some context, that's as fast as an ankle sprain recovery, and that is faster than an ACL reconstruction, a rotator cuff tear, a bone fracture, many other orthopedic injuries. So in the timeline of things, concussion is actually a relatively fast injury. You just want to treat it right the first time. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want more concussion information, go ahead and give my account a follow. Thank you.